Hello, I'm John Labman, and this is Simply Awake. Today's talk is called Keep It Simple and is from my Substack column of this week. Keep it simple and you'll discover liberation. And how is that possible? Well, you're acutely aware of how complicated life is now. And so am I. Email is almost a full-time job. Social media to reach friends, family, or potential new customers or clients is another one. Then there's the actual professional work you do, plus the mail, the housekeeping, the moving objects to where they belong, the endless activities of being alive. And added to that, we've got the craziness in the world where the news and politicians have us in a false duality and at each other's throats if we let them influence us that way. As an example of how complicated things can be, getting set up electronically to bill an insurance company has taken me 10 weeks. 10. It hasn't been successful yet, and it'll be another 2 weeks since I had to correct and submit the forms yet again, a third time. Yet most of the work is done in the allegedly time-saving world of the internet, which you're quite familiar with. Where do we go to stop the madness and restart the simplicity of life? Our attention moves right back to the sensory experiences. Always. My favorite new expression is that most of what the mind says is nonsense. In other words, it's not based on our sensory experience, which is our contact with reality. The spiritual journey to liberation is nothing so much as a vaporization of all thought that tries to define what we are and what we're looking at. Even the terms God, or okay, if you don't like that one, use an alternative like the Absolute or Brahman or Buddha nature or the divine or whatever you like. Even God and me are just words. At the end of the day, they're just more verbal distinctions that the mind spins that are not part of the sensory experience. Even the sensations that make up our sense of infinity or eternity are just physical sensations with an overlay of words, though they're quite lovely physical sensations to experience if you've had the pleasure to do so. We don't know what this reality even is because our sensory apparatus is limited, and we don't need to know. The sense-based reality that we all experience and that we're embedded in creates itself by inseparable interaction of awareness and sensory information. And even the early revelations or early parts of initial spiritual awakening, which happened for me about 25 years ago, in which it seems like there is an awareness separate from our thoughts and from everything else in the sensory fields, that's just another concept. The concept of a separate awareness makes it feel as if there is an awareness inside or in me that's separated from a reality outside, out there. That's because we first learned to tease awareness away from thoughts for some amount of time using meditation and other tools. And so we at first see awareness as a separate thing that is automatically registering everything that arises, thoughts and sensations and emotions, and that seems to have its own qualities, which are even delineated in some of the Hindu scriptures. This is so that we break the addiction of attention or awareness to thought. That's why we do all this in the beginning, and that's what initial awakening is. It's the breaking of attention and awareness away from thought and the realization that we are not just the voice that chatters in our head. We are all of this other stuff. The qualities of awareness, as if it was a separate thing, are sometimes defined as truthfulness, love, bliss or contentment, freedom and peace. When we first gaze out of our eyes without our attention and awareness glued to thoughts, it seems as if we see this pristine, empty, silent world that's radiating with awareness or God or consciousness or fill in the blank with your favorite term. We discover that we and what we look at are all the numinous or radiating presence of that. Yet the term awareness or consciousness is still a concept or thought construct, something I didn't understand until recently, with thanks to the teaching of Dr. Angelo DeLullo. However, in the end, there is no sensory experience that is separate from awareness, nor an awareness that's separate from sensory experience. There is no me separated from some external reality. They are hopelessly intertwined, with no possibility of separation that can be felt in our own lived and sensed experience. Yet still the world is as numinous or radiant and as empty of concreteness or permanence as it always was when awareness was thought to be a separate condition, a separate state. The difference now is that there's now an intimacy with the 10,000 things, as is talked about in one of the Zen Buddhist texts. It's a wonderful way to describe how it feels to be so intertwined with everything that arises. Things arise and pass away and arise again in a continuous flow of awareness dash sensation, if you will. Put those two things together as a new expression. There's no me to be separate. There's no internal awareness to be separate from sensation and sensory experience. So when the thoughts and words hurled at you from all kinds of so-called outside sources, and the cacophony of thoughts generating inside your own mind overwhelm you, just remember that all of it is nonsense, because it's not based on the sensory experiences. Even the descriptions about what just happened in the sense fields, while they may be as accurate as words can represent, are still not the actual experience. I can't tell you the water tasted sweet and you have an experience of that if you haven't tasted it. So if I tell you the water tasted sweet but you haven't tasted it, you just have an abstract idea of the water being sweet, you don't have the experience. Whenever you need to come back to sanity, simply focus your attention on your sensory awareness, your sensory experience, which is, intimately intertwined with awareness. Now you're awake. This is awakeness. You always have been awake and always will be able to know it yet again as soon as you stop believing that thoughts up here are reality, or even the ones coming from out here, and you start to live more fully in the senses. As soon as you know that all word-based knowledge is abstraction and nonsense, or just nonsense, you are here in, of, and as this being a summary of everything that's experienced. If your mind has you twirling or spiraling in circles, or kind of going down the drain, simply sit down and stop listening to it. Feel your weight on the chair. See the colors and forms in front of you. Become aware of all those sensations that are always pouring into you, as well as the sounds pouring into your ears, the smells pouring into your nose, and the tastes pouring into your mouth, the sense of balance and your body in space that's always being registered. The limited reality that is always self-creating through our limited senses, since we can't see all wavelengths of light, hear all wavelengths of sound, or smell all smells the way our dogs and cats do, that limited reality is nothing we need to worry about. It continues arising without a me to put it all together. Rest in your senses, in the automatic flow of your breath into and out of your body, and let all thoughts dissolve as they arise. And you'll return to your natural state. And unless you need to use thought to solve a problem, just keep putting it down and returning to your natural state. That's liberation. It's not complicated. And wishing you your own experience of that liberation in any moment of full sense reality that you can experience. I thank you for listening. Have a wonderful day. Love from here.